Welcome to the Boeing booth. It's very, very, very nice to see everybody. There's some familiar faces in the audience and some not so familiar faces, and I know certain faces ask really tough questions. So Steve, please don't. Ma'am, you always ask tough questions too. There will be some repeat stuff that we have that we'll talk about for the people that haven't seen the T-7 briefing before, but I know there will be some other questions based on potential quotes from last week, so we'll get into those. My intent is to go for about 15 minutes and then open up into 15 minutes. Additionally, we'll go over to the simulator and I will showcase embedded training and the live virtual constructive element that's never been showcased in any of the shows previously. So if you'd like to see it, please come over. So as Amrita discussed, my name is Don Yates. I am the Executive Director for Air Force Fighters and Trainers. T-7 is a very, very big project for me because it really resonates with my heart. I'm a big believer in training, and I believe that training sets the stage for the men and women who will serve in the future for global security. So it's something that really, really speaks to my heart. And I'm going to be talking to you about the T-7 program overall, and we can talk about updates. As I travel around the world, and I go around the world, everybody asks me, and when I say everybody, it's reporters, it's military folks, it's people on the streets that are following this. How is the T-7 doing? All right. So my first answer to answer that is a video. This should communicate how we're doing. This is APT-2, the very first T-7A delivered to the United States Air Force, landing at Edwards Air Force Base for the flight test program. For those of you that have been on the T-7 journey, this makes your heart sing, okay? Because it's progress. So we got a new test pilot. His name is Gremlin. He's in the front seat. If you were following Triple got accepted to the Thunderbirds. So we have a new test pilot, lead test pilot from the Air Force, and talking to him, he says it flies like a dream. Okay, that is progress. That's how we're doing. Here is the Air Force contract. So everybody that's walked up and asked, is this, what is the status of this? Who's this for? T-7A Red Hawk on the Advanced Pilot Training System contract is a $9.2 billion contract to deliver 351 aircraft, as well as 46 simulators and ground equipment to the United States Air Force. Right now, after Edwards, we hope flight test goes smooth, knocking on wood. Somebody knock on wood for me. And we hope to be through with a milestone C decision in Q1 of 2025. People always ask me after that, okay, when are you going to deliver to the United States Air Force for training? And the actual contract for what we have says that we must deliver by Q1 of 2026. However, I think the demand signal from the United States Air Force, if flight test goes well, is that we could potentially have some flexibility within 2025. So we're super excited and we're putting ourselves in a position to be able to deliver aircraft to the United States Air Force, Randolph Air Force Base, as quickly as possible. The other thing I will say is this, because this will come up as well. People will ask me, other markets, are you going to build an F7? Like all these different questions. And I want to reiterate for the crowd that Air Education Training Command, the United States Air Force, by far, is customer number one. We are focused on that. We want to deliver, we want to execute, and that's non-negotiable. That's something that we are laser focused on. So over on the right side, that cool picture, all right, is actually the first Air Force test flight, or first Air Force flight of the actual T-7 EMD aircraft. So that's a cool picture. And you can kind of see what we did before we even got to the test flight. We built two prototypes called production representative jets. They're the ones that you see in all the pictures that don't have the red tail, all right? We flew over 500 test flights. We had over 9,000 test points, and we were able to basically burn down risk before we flew any EMD flights in the actual EMD aircraft. So that's powerful. So let me reiterate that. We burned down risk, and we flew a lot of our test points before we actually started the EMD program with the EMD aircraft. Pretty cool. We talk a lot about digital engineering, okay? We talk a lot about what T-7 can do. T-7 is the first jet in the Boeing portfolio that is digital all the way through from design. And a lot of people ask me about, when they look at the plan form of what the T-7 looks like, they say, hey, that kind of looks like a Hornet. And I say, yep, it absolutely looks like a Hornet, because the lead designer, lead engineer for TX, the competition, was the same guy who helped develop the Super Hornet. So when you look at the Super Hornet, you go, oh yeah, I can see the leading edge root extensions, etc. A lot of that is baked into the jet. So from concept to first flight of the production representative jet was approximately 3 years. So done in secret to win the TX competition, and that's what we talk about here. So there's a nice quote from General Goldfein, who is Chief of Staff of the Air Force, big believer. And this is T-7. So welcome T-7, and hopefully in the future we'll have T-7 at the Dubai AirShow. That would be really cool. I'm excited. I don't think we'll be able to replicate what you saw with F-15 outside, but who knows? So we'll just kind of walk around the airplane, because a lot of people ask about what it's like. So twin tails, just like the Hornet, fly-by-wire controls, stadium seating in the cockpit, an advanced cockpit display, all right? This is the point that I want everybody to kind of resonate with. It has an open mission system architecture, okay? The best way that my non-engineering mind can think about that is I have a bunch of USB ports, and I can expand capability using software or additional, capabilities that I want to have in the future, and build that into my open mission system architecture to keep my platform relevant for the future, all right? And that's really the power and the differentiator for T-7 for the air forces of the world. The other thing I want to get you to pay attention to is the quote in the bottom right-hand corner. You're like, yeah, it's some random colonel, program manager, like, why is that important? Why do they have that up there? That's important because this is the first United States Air Force and Boeing approved brief, and that is the program manager's quote. 100% unified. If you were at AFA in Washington, D.C., you saw what the unified approach between Boeing and the United States Air Force was. And Colonel Cassell, who is the program manager on T-7, and Evelyn Moore, who's our vice president and program manager for T-7, are now lockstep aligned. Great relationship moving forward, and you saw the manifestation of that in the flight over Edwards Air Force Base. The big thing that you're going to see today when we go over to the simulator, and the big thing I want you to take away, is that is not the actual simulator we're going to deliver for the United States Air Force. But the software in the jet is the same software that you have in the simulator. And we call that one-push software. And yes, I'm using a laser pointer, so nobody make fun of me there. But one-push software is I make a correction to the software for the jet, I make a correction to the software for the simulator, and I push it, and it goes into all the systems, all right? Lots of flexibility. We talked about open mission system architecture, and the big thing to remember from this is we can add capability into perpetuity. So last week, if you were able to see my speech over with Applied Innovation, we did a flight test with Red 6. So Red 6 is an augmented reality company that basically delivers augmented reality avatars in your helmet-mounted display to simulate air-to-air combat, an aircraft carrier, threat missile launches, all these different kinds of things that you couldn't really replicate in real time in the cockpit. With augmented reality, you can do that. So what we did was we put this stuff on a Boeing A4 Skyhawk with a T-7 multi-mission processor computer. We put our test pilots, we put some key influencers in there, and we did several exercises. The first one, we did a tanker. So you pull up in the A4, you have the augmented reality, and you're sitting behind a KC-46. Everybody said that was really cool. Next thing we did was a 1v1 basic fighter maneuvers engagement, where the bandit was an AI-generated bandit and was flying with artificial intelligence, and you could do basic fighter maneuvers against that. We also did a surface-to-air missile threat reaction, and we did some formation flying using augmented reality. We did all that last week, and the final thing that was really, really, really cool was we had a former Top Gun graduate in the back seat of the A4. He did a full-up demonstration flying over an aircraft carrier. And I said, hey, Stretch, what did you think of that? And he said, I could see the waves of the water, I could see the deck, I could see the detail, and he basically did a full carrier pattern in the A4 over the augmented reality carrier, and he said it was really, really immersive. Really, really cool stuff, okay? That's the power of T7, development, adaptability, flexibility for the future. Slide. I own the slide. So many of you have heard me talk about maintenance, sustainability, like what we're trying to do, baked in from day one. People have asked, how's the Air Force going to do this? That's still all being worked. It's still all being developed. But again, built with maintainers in mind. So across, you can kind of see the doors open down. They don't hit your head. You can change out the engine, the F404, in 90 minutes. You can change out the ejection seats in 15 minutes. I commanded an F-15E fighter wing, so I had 94 F-15s. In order to do that, you had to take the canopy off, you had to pull the seat out, and it was basically taking the jet offline for an entire 2 or 3 days. If you wanted to take out the engines in the old school F-15E, it was an all day, and it took the jet offline for about 5 days. With 90-minute engine change, 15-minute ejection seat changes, flexibility, get the jet back on the line, continue to fly the mission for training. So really, really incredible platform from a sustainability standpoint, and a really, really cost-effective platform for an operational training standpoint. Okay, that was T7. Exciting stuff on Red 6, exciting stuff on Air Force Base and delivering tests, exciting stuff on the relationship between the United States Air Force and Boeing to facilitate progress. And again, we remain committed to Air Education and Training Command moving into the future. It's an exciting time to be involved in T7. I know that sounds really bad coming from the business development guy at Boeing, but really, it's really exciting. Lots of cool stuff, lots of engagements, lots of talk about development, and obviously quotes in the press from last week at Madrid. So we'll start with some of that. I open it up to questions, and we'll start, sir.